Rapid Plan session actually is a planning theater that we set up using video conferencing, using NxtNote Technology, which prints barcoded sticky notes that we scan in later. And all together we bring leaders from these organizations into a 3-day planning session. The first step in the project planning process is to establish program objectives. These program objectives are based on business goals and objectives set out by leadership and are intended to provide guidance to the project team with regard to the work that they need to accomplish during the project. Program objectives are tied to the business case for the program, and they're tied to key stakeholder needs. Program scope are the major scope elements for the program. For example, hardware changes, key software features and functionality, or perhaps labeling changes. At the same time, we identify assumptions and we identify risks. Once the team is aligned around the program scope and what we want to set out to accomplish as an entire program team, this is actually translated down to what we call the work stream level. What we do is we translate business objectives or program objectives and program scope elements down to the work stream level. We have teams formed around each one of these work streams, so we define their work that they're going to accomplish here. Again, we use the in-scope, out-of-scope technique. We identify assumptions and risks along the way. Now, once we've got workstream scope identified, we have what we call a gallery walk. In the gallery walk, team members come around and they review the material on the wall. You can see these neon-colored sticky notes here. These are questions or comments that were raised by the rest of the project team. And before we move off of workstream scope, we debrief all these scope elements and we make sure that everybody is in alignment with regard to what this team is going to produce. After we define workstream scope, the next step is to build a schedule. Schedule has 3 primary elements: inputs, tasks, and outputs. What we want to do is make sure that the creation of these outputs will accomplish all the scope that we agreed upon for this work stream. One important part of the schedule development process is to identify the things this team needs from other work streams. We use inputs and interdependency mapping to do that. Throughout the planning session, we capture risks. Once we get into the 3rd day of the planning session, risks have become readily apparent to us because we've spent so much time identifying scope, creating schedule, and so on. So what we do is we take the risks that have been identified during the planning session and we form teams. Each team takes a set of those risks, and the first step is to do an assessment. This is a standard risk assessment. We clarify the risk to the team. We assess the likelihood of that risk occurring. We assess the impact, and we score these with a risk priority number. After we've done that, we look at high, medium, and low risks and pick out the risks that we believe we need to do some additional planning for. The next step then is to create risk plans. Risk plan is comprised of a few parts. We identify the causes, the impacts, and then we try to address mitigations for the causes, contingency response actions for the impacts. We identify, of course, triggers and owners, but we do this as individual teams, but we present out to the whole group and debrief as a group and clarify, edit, and so on and so forth. So that's what a rapid plan session is. The reality is a rapid plan session is the front end of what is typically a year-long process to launch a new product. Thank you.